Hi, I'm Sean Durham again with Street Photography. Think about all the famous painters that we admire and all the famous photographers that we admire. People like Ernst Haas, Fred Herzog and Harry Gruet, the Belgian photographer. They're well worth checking out if you're into colour. And one of the first things to observe about their work is that they all seem to have gone off, not on a tangent, but rather in their own way. And their way seems very solid and they're very true to what they do. They wholeheartedly believe in what they're doing. And what they're doing is following their own intentions. And this is the key to finding your intentions in all things in life, but especially photography. And if street photography is your thing, it really does make a massive difference if you go out there with a strong intention. When we look at the light, which is what we're working with, it creates shadows. And so we want to think about what time of day it is. Morning light and evening light are different. The morning sunrise gives us cool tones, and the evening sunset, that will give us more of these golden hour tones, which are naturally going to be golden and throw in some very powerful, strong and quite intense colours around the place. Colour of sunshine, reflection of the sky is always there. Evening light, the sunset, that creates a much stronger and more vibrant set of tones for us to work with. And many people prefer it to the morning light. Apart from having to get out of bed in the morning, when the evening comes, it's generally when we have some free time. And so I love the evening, I love the morning. Both are two different mindset. If you take the time and you want to learn to take better photographs, it's a good thing to observe the light properly before you start clicking. You know, take a moment out from actually taking shots and just observe around you in the sunset and look at the tones and see how rich and vibrant they are and how powerful they are. Look at people's clothing, the colours of cars, that's where a lot of colour is. Shop signs that are reflecting very deeply because of the sun going down. But a very, very interesting time is when dusk is just coming in, the first moments of dusk, where it's still light and we're still sort of in the twilight. And then look at the colours and you'll see that they're popping. But there are a lot of shadows, and it's very interesting because it's the richer, stronger colours will always shine through because there is so much light in the atmosphere still. It's summertime. And we get that really beautiful landscape of separated colours, and they're separated by the shadows that are being caused by the more dampened tones and more pastel tones, which won't reflect so much light. But it's a very good thing to do, to observe it, and also you will see opportunities to take photographs. I don't mean when it's dark, I mean right at the beginning of dusk. Sunset is one thing and the sun's going down. And you and I both know that what happens is we rush about a bit and we're looking for things to photograph because we know that within 30 minutes, 40 minutes, that the sun is going to start dipping behind the rooftops, and that's going to cast a ton of shadows into streets. Quite often there are some narrow streets where I love to go down there, but come sunset, and the problem is that the whole street is in shadow, and so it all becomes very flat. The most prominent colours that you can look for are the yellows, white, red, orange, and there is such a thing as very warm blue and very warm green, and they're the things that pop like a fiery green. But it's at that time you'll see that the dampened colours and the pastel colours, they fade away firstly. But if you look in the morning light, you'll tend to find that you get more of a variation depending on the time of year. But even when the sun is coming up, look up into the sky and you'll see the sky is still cold from the night. And if you look right up, you might even be early enough to see, yeah, the sun's coming up and you can see the rays reaching up into the sky. And what's happening there, you see sort of like they're burning into the coldness. But it's lovely to see those rays going up, and when you look up, you actually see stars in the sky still, you know, just about. And it's like an azure, a blue that goes deeper and deeper until obviously it would be black. And this sort of tends to, in summertime, be there for 10 or 15 minutes and then it's gone. And you see that the sun has risen and warmed the sky, but it takes a bit of time, and it's a great time to take different types of shots. But all of this affects everything on the ground. The colour of people's you know, the tones of people's skin, their clothing, the way the colours pop or not. Tones can be very greyish, or they can be quite stark sometimes first thing in the morning. You can get some pretty long shadows, and it gives a feeling as well as a real visual effect of coldness. At the time when we're out there taking photos, street photography or not, intention is your main goal. You're working with light and colour. You're using the triad of light and colour, and it's that practice. But what we're really doing is experimenting. I take my time to look at it and consider it, to think it over and ask myself, what is it that stopped me in my tracks? What made me stop and look at this situation? Here in Berlin, it's a big city, and at this time you see a lot of tourist groups. I love looking at groups because they create sort of flocks, a little bit like the birds in the sky, and they move around in unison, and sometimes they form formations and patterns that are very interesting to photograph. Many things about the incidence of light and how the light is hitting the objects that they're looking at. When they see that, and this is the thing, if you see the incidence of light and you think about it, meaning which angle is it coming from, how is it hitting it, how is it creating depth through light and shadow, how do the tones of colour show more texture for you when you look at something and it's grabbed your attention. One of the great things to do is to study it for a moment or two. We're very creative people, so we're going to think about camera settings. You might want to take a quick shot on f8, 250 shutter speed, and ISO that's appropriate to the light you're in. Could be 400, 800, 1200, who knows, but you will, just so you can bring the light into it. And take the shot and take a quick look, and it will give you information about what it looks like in a frame. And you might discover that you just took a frame that isn't much use. So what do? We move our feet, and that's the best thing to do, is you move your feet once you've been looking at the light, and then you move your feet and you'll see how the light is changing just with one step or 3 steps. And I do this all of the time. And those 3 steps can bring me into a position where what I'm looking at, flow of people plus structure of a building, and I suddenly realized that's what I was looking at, and there it is, and it's probably going to be the best it gets. And so then I also know probably that I want a better depth of field, so it could be tighter or it could be a deeper depth of field. I like to, at the moment, I'm experimenting very much with higher and higher shutter speeds because I was always using much lower ones to get softer shadows, but I do want to capture a bit more motion, so I'm using higher shutter speeds right now. So it really is about when you see something that you're looking at, it stops you in your tracks and you begin to think about it just for a few moments, and maybe it meets your intentions, which are something that comes from within. Then you're looking at the incident of light, and that is how it hits it. What are the textures of the thing? Is it a brick building? Is it people's skin tones? Is there a mixture of skin tones? And you have to take that into consideration. Are you going to end up taking a photo where there's a lot of silhouettes moving along the street? That could be quite interesting, especially if the light is hitting the building and the people are walking in shadow. Why not bring it down to a point where you can get silhouettes and the building itself and all of its textures and the beautiful light that's maybe flashing a few colors up can create a really good shot. So long as there is a human being in it, there will be a point of interest that the viewer will look at the photo and they would just be so fascinated. Something about it's an animalistic thing. Our eyes are always on it. We're always looking at that human being. You walk down a street at night time and up ahead of you is coming another person. They may look like the most friendly person in the world, but you're going to keep your eye on them. It's animalistic. You're out there taking photos, you're looking for people, populate your photos in order to create really interesting compositions. So to sum it up, let's remember that creativity with a camera is not about copying people, it's about emulating and discovering. We look within ourselves and we find our own integrity, and in there we find our own intentions, and we can create strong intentions as photographers. When we act in a way where we put a whole soul into the work of street photography or landscape or any photography that you do. So how do we do this? We build strong intention. And so how do we do that? We do our own thing, and we don't constantly try and copy. So we do our own thing by going out and being fearless about being honest with ourselves about the way we look at the world. And then we create those compositions and we experiment with our cameras in order to create compositions and frames And by doing that, we will gently and surely, over time, begin to see something emerging in our work which really does speak to ourselves. And then we know that we're actually expressing our full intention. It's the light and the shadows and the colours and the tones. And a deeper understanding of these leads to a deeper understanding of ourselves as photographers. And that is what will help us to see more clearly what it is we're trying to do. Well, I'm Sean Durham, and I hope you have a nice weekend. Subscribe and enjoy your photography. All the best until next time. Bye-bye.